It's working because I don't see anyone saying hello in the chat. Hello. Where are you from? Okay, maybe it's a longer message than just yeah, and make sure you respond to everyone. Yeah, sorry. Okay, I'll turn off. And I hope you see my shared screen. So we are really excited to welcome you guys this afternoon, morning, whatever is the time of the day. Lithuania, we have Kibbutz Gadot in Israel. So of course, Haifa, United States, Wyoming, nice. North Carolina, and our guest speaker, Ashlee, is from North Carolina. Wonderful. Kostas, are you in Greece now or in some other country?
In another country.
In another country, okay. Of course, Slovenia is here as well. Okay, hi Ellie, good afternoon. Mital. Right. The majority of the audience so far, we'll have more people join. So the majority of the audience are my students from Israel. We are excited to welcome our guest speaker this week, Ashlee Russell from the United States. And I will tell you the story, how I reached out to Ashlee and what we're doing in this course. So basically, my students here and I have been exploring different AI tools, different application of various AI tools for academic purposes, for purposes of employment, maybe fun. We are also organizing our own conference. My students are getting ready to launch their own online event next week. You're all invited. You will have our invitation soon coming in, so please join us also next week. We will be approximately the same time. It's going to be longer. We will start earlier because we have a lot of students, a lot of interesting presentations getting ready for this event. So during this semester, we have been exploring a lot of different AI tools and applications of artificial intelligence in academia and higher education, for professional growth, for professional development. And today, we are very honored and happy to welcome Ashlee from the United States. I think we met a few months ago when we had an event by Jason in June. And then I followed several other conferences run in the United States. So I ended up in one of the sessions where Ashlee presented her amazing talk about the importance of soft skills. And the concept of soft skills is also our central concept in the Impact European Erasmus Plus virtual exchange project, where we explore the importance of soft skills, digital literacy, and of course, AI is very interesting in this aspect. And we have COIL initiatives around the topic of soft skills. So whoever's interested in virtual exchanges and COIL, I hope you follow our events. And if not, please stay tuned. You will be invited again to join for the future events very soon. So after one of these conferences where I saw Ashlee as a speaker, I reached out and said, okay, I have some students who will definitely benefit from your knowledge and expertise in the area of the importance of soft skills. Now, soft skills has so many different terms and names, right? One of my colleagues say they're not soft, they are power skills. And the way Ashlee presented in her abstract, she's calling these durable skills. And maybe there is another term that recently was published by Oxford University Press just a couple of weeks ago. They call these similar, maybe identical skills, they call them transition skills, right? So transition into the future, And yeah, I guess this is becoming more and more crucial, and we will discuss this hopefully in an interactive manner. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Ashlee will get ready to share her screen. Again, say hello in the chat, share your location. We already have 30 participants. Excellent. Thank you very much. Welcome, welcome. 31, 32. Great. People are joining us. So, Ashlee, the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with all of you this morning. As Dr. Mizrahi mentioned, as we move into the future and we're looking at all of these developing technologies, durable skills, that's what I refer to them as, because they are long lasting, they're durable, they transition well, but they're becoming more and more important because we have more tools to work with. The world is changing so quickly. We're having to learn as we go. And then that is actually a piece of AI literacy, is learning how these durable skills transfer over and how we manage using AI within all the different contexts that we use it. So what are durable skills? We've been talking about that, but they remain relevant and useful across various contexts and over time. And if you think about AI literacy, that term has evolved, but it's not just learning about the tools. That's an important part. Learning that technical aspect is really important, but it's about half technical skills and about half human skills. So if you take a look at this framework here, this AI literacy competency framework, again, there are many out there. This one comes from Paradox Learning for an example, but I just really liked the visual here, that we see the technical skills, but we also see some human skills in there. So I'd like to take a minute and just hear from you guys. Feel free to go on the mic or go into the chat, either way. But looking at this framework, where do you feel like durable skills fit into this? In which areas or area? And when we think of durable skills, thinking of things like communication skills, cooperation, creativity, things of that nature. So how does that fit in, and where does it fit in on this framework?
Okay, let me put it in a simpler way for my students.
I see Aaron put an answer in there.
The age of AI, and where do you think we need the communication skills aspect?
So, yeah, and I love that think time. I mean, I totally respect that. You have to have a minute to think about it. Number 3 and number 7, critical thinking and fact checking, future of work. And then Devash says, I wouldn't call it creative, but 3 feels the most useful and needed in every aspect of life and work. And I agree with that. A lot of 3 and 7. Good. Good. And some people will say it really could fall into all of them. And as we talk more about specific durable skills, your thoughts may change and you may find different areas where it should fit. Kennedy says also number 5, AI ethics. Yes. Thinking of things in new ways and having critical thinking to be able to determine the ethical aspects. AI pedagogy, absolutely. Do I have any educators in here? Teachers?
I'm teaching, actually. I'm a private student, I'm a private tutor of math, but not very official like in school or something.
Okay, I gotcha. But you're still teaching. And so you have to use those durable skills. You have to be creative. You have to think outside the box, meet your students where they are. Absolutely. And as we're teaching AI tools, that pedagogy or the methods that we use to teach that, we're going to tap into those durable skills. And a little bit about me, I've been an educator for 15 years. So that's my jam, teaching. I've worked with all age groups, elementary, middle, high, college, and adults. And there are differences between the age groups, but ultimately, humans are humans. And those durable skills start we start teaching them at a very young age. Dr. Mizrahi shared with me about her 2-year-old. I don't know if anybody else in here has any little ones, but we know that we start teaching them these things really from the point that they're able to communicate. And then as adults, we just continue to work on those skills and build those skills through different experiences. And I see some more teachers here in the chat. Great. Someone also mentioned number 2. I hadn't seen that one yet. Data fluency, absolutely. Problem solving is a durable skill. And so when we're looking at data fluency, being able to think in terms of being a problem solver and see how things fit together, draw conclusions based on the data, that's part of a durable skill set. Okay, thank you all so much for the feedback. Let's see, having some issue getting my slides to change. There we go. So I just want to take a minute now that we've had a second to think about durable skills in terms of AI literacy. Let's just think in terms of life. So pretend you're a time traveler and you just woke up in the year 2124, you know no one and understand very little about the world around you. How would you go about your day in order to survive and thrive? What would you do? You woke up in 2124, you don't really recognize anything. What would you have to do? What skill sets would you have to rely on? And what behaviors do you think you would show? You can put them in the chat or share them out loud.
Feel free to unmute yourselves and just shout your ideas or type. I would be careful myself. I would be a little bit scared to go out and maybe showing more sensitivity than ever and maybe more empathy and trying to understand what's going on and being in this alien world, I guess.
Right. Exactly.
I think I would start to observe my surroundings.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So active listening skills, right? One of the soft
Yes.
skills.
Communication, connection with others, very good.
But support and guidance, of course, you need that.
Yes, need some support and guidance. We can't do anything alone, right? And I think we forget that sometimes. We take it for granted that we have each other, but in this instance, or folks who travel to unfamiliar places, you realize very quickly how much you need other people to get through our daily activities. Adapt to daily life around me, decide and prioritize what I have to do, communicate to reconfirm and learn. Very good.
Yeah, adaptability, flexibility. Listen and observe exactly what was said.
Absolutely. Yep. Listen and observe. That's the first thing I thought of too. When we want to be adaptable, try to understand the context. So these were just some things that I thought of when I was working on this. Try to understand, why do people do things that way? Why is it being done this way? How do they do it? What tools are they using? Ask questions. Again, try to understand why and how. Connect with someone you can trust. So I saw that in the text too, or in the chat box too. And how do we know that we can trust someone? We don't really know right off the bat, right? But we rely on those durable skills that we have to be able to determine if someone's reliable enough for us to trust them in that first instance. And then I also thought, as we move through our time in the future, at some point we'll have to try to bring some value, right? Because not only are we looking for others to trust, but we want others to trust us, and we don't want to be a burden to anyone around us. And I saw where someone mentioned in the chat earlier about human-led and human-centered, and that's something I'm really passionate about with AI, is that we continue to keep it human-centered and human-led. And I think when we add value to the conversation, that we can help drive that direction. So if you go into the future and you come across as just really helpless, are you going to be in control of the direction that you go? Not necessarily. They may decide they want to do a science experiment on you to figure out how did you get to the future, right? So you've got to try to figure out how you're going to add value, blend in, and not not allow someone else to take over or take control just because you don't know everything about it. And the same is true with AI. We don't know, you don't have to be a tech expert. Not everyone's going to be a tech expert, but we still want to maintain that agency and make sure that we're a part of that conversation in the direction that we go with that as a society. And along with that, continue learning, adapting, and evolving. And that's just part of moving into the future. We're not in 21-24, but we are, as quickly as things are changing. Sometimes I wake up and I'll see updates on AI and I feel like I've jumped ahead, 100 years, because things just are changing so quickly. And so being able to learn, adapt, and evolve. And as Dr. Mizrahi mentioned, be ready to unlearn some things. As things change.
Yeah, and
so
the future is closer than we actually know it, right? I think just again mentioning my daughter, she will be a citizen in the 22nd century, hopefully. Believe it or not, like she's the age that she can.
right.
It's crazy. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. We think in terms of where we are and we don't realize, it's really within a lifetime of our young people right now. So things are going to change very quickly. They've changed very quickly, as with generative AI. I went to a conference in Vanderbilt back in May, or at Vanderbilt University. It's in Tennessee, USA. And Dr. Jules White, I don't know if anybody's familiar with him, but he's a very well-known academic in AI circles. And he shared that within that community, they were not expecting generative AI, for example, ChatGPT, to be at the level of computational accuracy that it is for another 20 or 25 years. And so they were able to do that much more quickly than they ever thought. And so the future, we don't know what the future is going to look like 5 years from now, 1 year from now, much less 100 years from now. So just keeping all of these things in mind as we move into the future is going to be very, very important in order to remain relevant, in order to be successful in our careers. And then also just for the future of society, making sure that we have a say. Just because we're not the ones developing this technology, that we have a say and that we understand enough about it to bring valuable input to the conversation, and to try our best to keep it human-led and human-centered through legislation and policies and so forth. Okay, let me see. I'm having trouble with getting my slides moving. There we go. I apologize for that. So then when we look at the future of work, this comes from the World Economic Forum, businesses' top 10 skill priorities for 2027. So just take a look at those really quickly, and you can see most of them are durable skills. There's not many that are specific hands-on skills. A lot of them are durable skills, being adaptable, adjusting, and that sort of thing. So just take a look, take a minute and think about that. And are there any that stand out to you or that surprise you?
Number 8, again, the user as a focus point. I think that's something that stands out for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The rest is a little bit more logical, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Kennedy says curiosity and lifelong learning as well. Lifelong learning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found that interesting too, the user experience. That's going to be more and more important. And with that being said, going back to what we were talking about, human-led and human design or human-centered, if they're designing for what we want and what we need, because at the end of the day, these companies are profiting from us using their tools, they want it to be the experience that we want. And so, thinking in terms of that way too, that we can have a say when it comes to that. Okay. All right. So yeah, so these skills here that we see, analytical thinking, creative thinking, AI and big data, leadership and social influence, resilience, flexibility, and agility, curiosity and lifelong learning, technological literacy. So I like here there too how it says technological literacy. You don't necessarily have to be a tech expert to have technological literacy. And so that's something that I try to come across to folks who are self-claimed non-techies, because you don't have to be an expert at it. You just need to have that literacy and being able to speak to it. Design and user experience, motivation, self-awareness, empathy, and active listening. All those are going to be very important in the future of work, which makes it even more important for us to make that a priority and improving that in ourselves as well. Okay, again, getting back to the human-led future, durable skills set humans apart from machines and drive the way that they are used. So that just echoes the conversations that we've been having. And again, this can be instilled in kids before they ever touch a screen or AI. The research tells us there should be a balance between educational experiences with and without a screen. And the same is true for adults. As we're working and building things and creating things, there needs to be that balance there. It's not everything just on a screen. And then one of UNESCO's guiding principles of AI in education is that we strive for AI to be human-led. So as we continue to move forward, as things continue to develop and change, that we have a say and that we're informed enough to have a say in the direction that it goes in. And I know not everyone in this class is necessarily in education, but that translates to all industries and all forms of work. We don't ever want to get to a point where we're just nodding and going along with whatever the machines are directing us. We want to stay in control of that and have agency. So my company is actually AI Learning Central. I think we mentioned that at the beginning, but I focus a lot on going into schools and organizations and just helping them with implementing AI and making sure that it's human-led and human-centered, and that not only are the technical aspects considered, but that we also look at the human aspects, as we mentioned earlier. So what we like to refer to them as are human superpowers, because there's something that only humans can do. So as much as the machines can do, as much as they're able to create, at the end of the day, we have superpowers that set us aside from the machines. And the first one being cognitive process awareness. And we will get into these more specifically in just a minute. We have cognitive process awareness, character, critical thinking, connections, and I saw somebody mention that in the chat, creativity, communication, and curiosity. And I also saw somebody mention curiosity. So you guys are already thinking in that same direction as far as those durable skills. So the first one we'll start with is cognitive process awareness. So cognitive process awareness, we define it as that because we think it's really important that individuals know how their brain works. How do we learn? How do we think about things? How do we process things whenever we're working on projects if we're using AI as a collaborator? And so metacognition becomes really important. And metacognition is the way that we think about our own thinking and how we organize those thoughts. And that's going to become even more and more important so that we can determine at what level do we want AI to be involved and at what level do we want it to be our own and have our own ownership. So that metacognition is going to become even more important. And in work settings, being able to communicate what thoughts came from you and what thoughts were generated by the AI, and being able to understand how those flow together will be critical. Also understanding the science of learning and attention, thinking about also executive functioning skills, and then reflection. So reflection is something that AI cannot do. AI is not able to reflect in the same way that humans are. And so whenever we think in terms of empathy and things like that, that reflection piece becomes even more important. And just understanding that we have that and that machines don't is a critical aspect of that AI literacy. The next
Sorry,
part.
Ashley, I
I'm
want
so
to
sorry. Yeah.
invite the audience, especially my students and anyone who wants to contribute.
Mhm.
Maybe as we go through these 7 C's, I would like everyone to think about each one of them, and maybe we'll pause and give the audience like 30 seconds to process and come up with a question or with an insight, or like maybe something that you said, maybe they disagree. So let's give them like a few seconds to respond to this. Like, for example, when you say AI is incapable of reflection, don't we sometimes see the examples of a simulation of reflection? Like, I'm honestly reporting on my own students' attempts to use AI for homework, where I ask them to reflect and they ask AI to reflect for them. And there is a very nice reflection, sometimes better quality than a student reflection, which I'm now supposed as an educator to look at and decide, first of all, who did the reflection, AI or my student really? And why is this? And you know, it's so fascinating because also the second point of the science of learning and attention, it's important for humans to realize how we learn and how we think and process information. But also, I think the power of AI is that it can have access to all of the knowledge and data and research. And actually, one of the claims among AI experts is that AI tools can really be powerful because they can be more customized, personalized towards different styles, different learning, you know, like as one human being, we cannot know everything. Like the knowledge there is much richer within the AI tool. So maybe it can customize immediately all of the different learning styles, and it knows more about meta-cognition. What do you think? Is it really only human, or can AI get there, or how do we even collaborate on this? So just, you know, I'm inviting you to ask questions, to write your insights in the chat as well on each point. What do you
Absolutely. And while you guys are having some think time, I'll share too that yes, the AI can absolutely simulate reflection, and it can take that information and formulate it in a way that sounds very empathetic or shows emotions, that sort of thing. But again, it's simulated. It doesn't really have those feelings that we have or those same experiences. But you're right, though. I mean, if you put that data in there, it can take the data and create something that comes across like a reflection and can be very meaningful, and be part of the process of our final product that we're coming out with. But I guess in terms of the angle that I'm coming out with these is more the process over the product. So understanding these pieces about our cognitive processes helps us have a better process with the AI tools so that we can have a more meaningful product.
Yeah, and now we have some interesting comments and
great,
questions
yeah.
coming in, but you can continue and we will address this later on. Wow, amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that we're getting into a deeper discussion with it, because this is really the important part.
Okay, so it's up to
Yeah,
you if you want to take the comments right now or come back to them later. So as you wish.
Okay, yeah, I can go ahead and look at them now. So AI can produce an output like a reflection, but the point of reflection is the action, the process, right? That action process and drawing on our human experiences and human empathies. And someone mentioned about how it can present it from multiple perspectives. And that's really important too, because it helps us be more empathetic whenever we get that perspective from another angle. Present as a second grade student or another good, or if we're trying to understand another culture, having it presented from that angle. Genuine self-awareness and personal authenticity, AI can't have that. That's very true too. And whenever we're developing our output or our product, whatever our product might be, as we're engaging with the process of AI, understanding these things about ourselves, and then also understanding how the AI is designed, being able to put it together so that our product is authentic to who we are, that's the durable skill there. Being able to do that and not lose yourself in the product. It's really important. Then I'm scrolling up here, and then Kennedy had a question about our last slide. How can durable skills be instilled in kids before they touch the first screen when most of the durable skills are technology related? Well, certain skills, some of them are technology related, and then some of them like communication or even metacognition, helping them think through how they're thinking, what they're thinking, managing their emotions and things like that, how to ask a question. That's a durable skill at a very basic level, but all of those skills build up to, for example, prompt engineering. When we go to create a prompt, we have to tap into those basic skills that we forgot that we learned so long ago, as far as how to frame a question, how to use certain words to get our point across, and that sort of thing. And as we get better at that, the more we practice that, the better we can become. Okay. And then Raphael says, I guess the main difference is the aspect of personal experience, genuine self-awareness and personal authenticity. We mentioned that. Real emotion, very human, very non-AI. Yes. So we can understand the emotions in a much more complex way than the AI can. Now, like Dr. Mizrahi said, it can stimulate it very well in many cases, but sometimes not so much. In my opinion, AI imitates human emotions in its responses and refines its answers according to our feedback. That's true too. That is true too. But the better we get at these pieces here, understanding how our brain works, the better and more authentic output and product that we can have with our collaboration with AI tools. And then that way the AI is just not taking over what we're trying to come across. Okay, the next one we'll look at character. So again, as Dr. Mizrahi mentioned, feel free to just speak out anytime. Stop me in the middle of while I'm talking. That is totally fine. I want this to be a rich discussion. Throw things into the chat. That is perfect too. But as we look at character, we chose this term to encompass digital and in-person citizenship. And I know Dr. Mizrahi shared that you guys have been learning about that too. Digital and AI ethics, self-actualization as a part of a greater good, and integrity. It's really important that we're taking the time to think about what our values are and that we are living within our values in conjunction and in collaboration with the AI tools. And so all of these pieces here are really going to be critical with that. Does anybody have any thoughts about how character influences how we use technology? Or why it might be important moving forward?
Yeah, we just had this discussion earlier, right, Eitan, about integrity and ethics and our trust in AI tools and how we want to be perceived by others, like right? So we had kind of
exactly. And thinking about a digital footprint, everything we do online, there's a digital footprint of it. There's a trail of data. And I see York, am I saying your name correctly? Feel free to unmute if you'd like.
Yes, Jörg is good. Yes. Yeah, I think, for example, how do we approach the use of AI? If we come with a kind of a growth mindset, I can use that to grow. It's a new thing I can work with. It's different than when I think I'm gonna use it to shortcut and get out cheap. Not doing the work myself versus using it to grow my work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes it might feel a little rudimentary to talk about, why are we talking about, integrity? That's something that adults should already have. But like you mentioned, Jorg, these are new tools that are coming out. And sometimes that line of integrity is a little blurred. Where do we draw that line, and how do we know when we're using it ethically or not? And so being a part of these conversations, a lot of these ideas around ethics are being put into place now because generative AI just came onto the scene, 2 years ago. And really just among the mainstream, it's just now getting out there. And so it's something that we have to reflect on again, as far as how will we use this and maintain our integrity, maintain our ethics, and as Jorg said, make ourselves better, enhance our work, and not replace it. And that'll be really important too when it comes to the future of work and replacing jobs. You know, we have to bring that value and show that we have, you know, a higher standard here when it comes to thinking about integrity and things like that. Whereas sometimes the AI, the generative AI output can have biases. It can have incorrect answers. It can have incorrect ways of doing things as far as ethically and what we deem to be good citizenship, because it's just pulling out of pools of data. So that human oversight when it comes to how we're going to use it ethically will be really, really important. And then I have Colin here in the chat said, how can we as educators open minds and develop trust of our students in regards to using AI and new tools? I think this is something that we will have to talk to them about. This is something that, again, it seems like a very foundational, rudimentary concept, talking about character again as adults. But it's something that we're going to have to open up that conversation again and think about what is that. And so with students, building that trust, I think is also opening that trust for them to trust us too. And so that goes back to our conversation earlier, you know, with time traveling, you know, it's the same concept here that we're in a brand new situation. And so we have to have these conversations. And I've seen, there are some frameworks that show where students can share to what level of AI they used. You know, did they use it just as a support to get ideas from, or did they actually quote the AI? And so teaching them how to cite it correctly and at what level do they need to provide a citation will also help with that too. As we know, AI detectors have they've found out that they're not really as useful as they thought they would be, that they can be biased and unfair, and that they're not always accurate. So we can't always rely on that. But the more we learn about it, and I think the more that we value our own contributions and figure out ways to to collaborate with AI and not use it just as a crutch, you know, the better that we'll become at that, the better we'll become at citing it and knowing when it's important to share.
Actually, can you clarify on the third bullet point, like self-actualization is part of a greater good? What do you mean by that? It's the first one.
Absolutely. So taking the time to understand that you have a role, specifically in this era of time. So when you think about history, and we'll talk about this in a minute again, is when you think about history and where we are in history, this is a huge technological advancement, bigger than we can even really conceptualize right now. But 100, 200 years from now, they're going to look back and this will be, you know, it's been compared to like the Industrial Revolution. And we are responsible for figuring out and laying the foundation for what will be acceptable use and what will be acceptable development as we move into the future. And what are we saying is just not okay? And so from our point of view at AI Learning Central, we really want AI to become a part of a greater good. We want it to be human-centered, human-led. And so all of us self-actualizing and realizing our role within that will be really critical moving forward, because right now it's the tech giants, you know, the big tech that's making a lot of these decisions, and their voices are being heard the most when in terms of policy and legislation, because they know the most about it. They're the experts. So why not listen to the experts? But they're also profiting from us. They're profiting from us using it. And so on the other end, as the consumer, we believe at AI Learning Central that's going to be really important, that as consumers that we realize our role in this, and that we become knowledgeable so that our voices can be heard and we continue to make it something for the greater good of society and not the other way around. You hear about, you know, the sci-fi doom and gloom of what it could potentially be one day. And so we want to make sure that doesn't happen and that we take it in a positive direction.
Thank you. Okay.
I see a couple more spots here in the chat. I think an ethical person would not use AI to plagiarize, but rather acknowledge intellectual property. I agree with that. And one tricky part about the IP part is that generative AI, it's not necessarily pulling from a specific piece of work. It's pulling from tons of pieces of work, and how that concept, whatever concept you're working on, collaborating on with the AI, what context it's used within all those different sources. And so it is generating something brand new. But again, as you said, as I think what you're alluding to, Obongo, is that it's still not you, and you know it's not you. So figuring out that ethical way to cite that and share is gonna, ensure that you're doing that the right way. We also deal with this challenge. We do absolutely not disencourage the use of AI in their growth process, but use it to be inspired and then take over again. A challenge for the teacher team we're taking. Okay. Yes. So people are still copying and pasting. You're right. People are doing that. And you wouldn't think that adults would do that. And someone mentioned, we're talking about master level students, but it can be tempting when, people have a lot on their plate and they have a lot expected of them, and they see this as a tool that they can use, and they have a problem and they find a solution and they're using it. But I think the more we learn about it, the more AI literacy that we have, I think the more we can influence that as we move forward. So now we'll go ahead and go on to critical thinking. So again, critical thinking, we've touched on that throughout our conversation. Feel free to throw things in the chat, come off mute if you think of something. But clear, deep, productive thinking. Able to evaluate facts from opinions, false information from true, bias from unbiased. So although AI tools are, especially generative AI, is really good at convincing us that it's correct, it's accurate, it's cited, if we ask it to cite its sources, it gives us a specific source, but it's not always right. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that with AI, is that it's not always correct, or it's not always coming from the same frame of reference that you're trying to use. It may not always apply to your frame of reference or apply to the situation that you're using it in. And then also, we know there's a lot of biases in AI outputs. When you have humans, you will have you'll have biases, but the more that we learn about that and can think critically and have different experiences, we can counteract those biases and make sure that it's not impeding our work. Also able to defend one stance using logical reasoning. So debating with AI is a really big thing too. Being able to debate with AI to get to the output that you want. Or also, if you're trying to learn a new concept, debating with AI can help you to think more critically about it. Going back to that consumer power that we talked about earlier, understanding your power as a consumer and being able to think critically from that perspective, and being able to zoom out of a situation and reflect clearly, and not just taking the output for what it is and then using it for whatever product you're trying to create. Any input about critical thinking? Okay, I feel like we've touched on the critical thinking a lot throughout the conversation, but now we'll move on to connections. So connections, and we define connections at AI Learning Central. We look at not only human connection, obviously we see as the most valuable connection, but also connections within our cultures, connections within the globally. And we really want to help people be aware of anthropomorphization. I don't know if I'm saying that exactly correctly, but it's where the end user, so thinking about the end user experience, begins to believe that the AI, or giving it, not only begins to believe possibly, but also just begins to experience it more as like a human. But keeping in mind that it's not a human, it's just a data generator. That's all that it is. But we're seeing, though, already, there's different apps that are coming out, such as the Friend app, where you can have an app where the generative AI is your friend. You can talk to it. Well, that might be useful in certain situations, but you really have to be careful of not really giving it the role of a friend. That's something that we see is going to be very important moving forward. We don't want people to begin to prefer chatbots over humans. So friction forces us to grow and get better. And so if we want to continue to look at human-led and human-centered AI, we want to focus on that durable skill of making connections with others and making connections within our communities, connections to the world and history, going back to understanding the context of ourselves and technology from a historical standpoint, connections to our own identities, so our social emotional health, and then a healthy collaboration with others and technology. It's going to be really, really important. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on humans preferring technology over humans? Raphael says, I think this sheet is quite relevant for design challenges with a human-centered approach as well. Absolutely. And connecting with humans is a skill. It's a skill set. We take it for granted because we've learned it since day one. But we're in a time where kids growing up now will have technology from day one. They'll interact with AI chatbots when they're young. And so this will be something that we'll need to continue to work on in ourselves and with others. I actually talk with ChatGPT as a human. This is Nadine. I believe that in this way, it gives me more accurate and the answers I want, but do not prefer it on human. Yes. So being able to know that it's not really a human, but we talk to it like one, is, but also understanding that it's not a human connection. And she says she does not prefer it over human. And so that's great. As we move forward, we'll get into communication skills here in just a minute, but working with others, the more that we interact with our technology, how many of you guys would prefer to order from your app on your phone rather than go in and order from a person? Like if you're ordering food or something or groceries.
Yeah, you can write in the chat, I think.
Okay.
Some people just respond to me directly. Let me remove this option. Yeah, your phone, right? A lot of people actually prefer ordering from the app, including me.
Mhm.
And it's interesting the way that you frame like the value of human connections and relationships and how important it is to identify that, these are different, especially for the younger generation. I'm thinking of my kids again. They're in this digitally AI enhanced world, growing up with those tools and apps. Those might be dangerous, I guess, if they're part of your life from day one, right? We know because we we existed before AI. What about the younger kids that are born with AI? This is going to be interesting.
It will. And I see a lot of people in here, including me in the chat, prefer the phone. And somebody mentioned being able to see the whole menu. I feel the same way whenever I'm ordering groceries. I'd rather do it on my phone because going in the store now, it's such a hassle looking for things, trying to find, I can't just type it in. I have to figure out what aisle it's on. So yeah, a lot of times life is just easier doing it through technology. But some, it's just, when we think in terms of durable skills and we think in terms of the human side of things, it's just having that reflection of, okay, I acknowledge that it's easier, but sometimes maybe I'm missing out on certain experiences that make me happy. Running into somebody at the grocery store or spending time, talking to somebody in line, little things like that, not losing those skills of being able to have small talk with a stranger. Those are skills that we take for granted, but we do have to use them. The old term, you use it, or you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. You want to make sure that you're keeping those skills fresh and that you continue to be able to connect with others. And Bridget has said she actually does prefer the store. So some people do. But I know it's really convenient to be able to do things on our phone. So we just don't want to lose that human connection or those human skills. New York says, I switched from ordering groceries online, very convenient, to going to the store to be among human. I don't talk to many, but I'm not as isolated. Good. And I think too, for me, like since I've started working from home, I do like to go into places more because I find that, I feel lonely sometimes being at home working by myself all day. And so it's nice to get out and just be around other humans. Raphael says he prefers a human being in front of him for certain buys. Absolutely. So I just want to keep those skills fresh and just be aware that that's something that we can lose if we don't stay conscious of that and aware of that. And then next we're going to look at creativity. So for creativity, obviously we know creativity is important as we're creating products. We want to make sure that our human experience and things like the arts, can never really be replaced by AI. That's our belief at AI Learning Central. I know they have the song apps and the music apps where it can create a song for you, but it's just not the same as experiencing or creating music yourself. That's definitely a very human experience. But that skill is going to be really important, not only from the human aspect of, heart and soul aspect of it, but when we think in terms of the economy, the changing economy and the changing workforce, we don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know what these jobs will be 1 year down the road, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And so we're going to have to adapt and learn how to create value. So how can I use my skill sets that I have to create value and bring value to what the current economy needs? And that'll be even more important as we move in and as AI tools begin to take over certain jobs. New jobs will be created, and we'll have to be a part of that. What kinds of jobs can we create to bring value to our society and bring value to our economy? I'm looking at the chat here. If you talk about designing a successful company strategy, the aspect of what value means for the customer is something that only the customer can tell you. And it asks interviewing, et cetera, with a high degree of empathizing. I don't see AI already do that. So I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, Raphael. So you're saying that companies creating these tools, they're going to need customer feedback in order to bring value to the customer.
Well, in general, I mean more in general. Whatever company you are starting, or maybe changing strategy, you must talk to or at least you must talk to the one you are targeting to fully understand him. He, she, they.
Right.
They can tell you what value is for them, and to find that out, you really must feel that one opposite of you, and that is something I think only a human being can do for the time being, at least. So.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you. And I think, yes, you're right. I think that that's only something that humans can do for the time being. We'll see where the future goes. But,
yes.
But AI can maybe able to replicate that. But as far as getting user experience data, I mean, they'd have to talk to the user. Absolutely. And on the other end, creating that value for your users. Excellent feedback. So yeah, you have to think outside the box, take that feedback, think outside the box, create solutions to new problems. So there's problems, there's jobs that we don't foresee yet, but there's also problems that we can't foresee yet. And so we have to be creative in terms of how will we solve those problems. And AI might be able to do that, but AI is going to only have the existing data available. And as Raphael mentioned, sometimes just being able to feel as a human, and we have our intuition and things like that, and see the whole big picture. It's a different perspective, very different perspective.
I mean, sometimes customers don't even understand their own problem. They see symptoms and think, oh, this is my problem, but there is something underlying, and it needs help to make them find the underlying real problem. Well, I think maybe one day AI can do that. I don't know. But at the moment, I'm critical. Skeptical.
Right. I agree. Yeah, AI still has a hard time with some of those more complex situations and being able to dig in like that. I agree, 100%. Konstantinos, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I mean, somehow I think that the AI is already doing this, because it's not only that is using existing knowledge, but it's like the innovation behind AI is like how fast and how innovative combines this existing knowledge. That the humans sometimes they are very slow to do. It's not only to discover new things. The innovation is like how you combine existing things, and I think this is the smart way to do. So innovation is not only to discover new things. So I think AI is doing already, and we have particularly cases that they have done, incredible things, like, how do they treat the cancer? How do they propose? I mean, if you read the book from Kissinger about AI, they propose even maneuvers, to F-35 pilots that, humans, they don't trust to test them or to pilot them. So I think that regarding creativity, I mean, we are racing next to AI right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this might be true. I also think that AI is capable of creating scripts and visuals that are really wow in terms of like aesthetics. But what is missing is kind of a soul, right? We're talking about something really human, like energy and soul, and the effort that is put into that. For some reason, sometimes AI-free products seem to be more valuable because we know how much energy and sleep, like right, human life has been put into those creations, and how fast and crazy I can do it in no time. And another thing that you made me think about, Ashlee, is that maybe in the future, very near future, we will need a course for again, I'm thinking about the next generation, on having a small talk with a stranger. I loved that example. Some people will not even have the skill on how to do that, and it's an important skill to develop, so we can add it to our colon impact cost. The skill of having a small talk with a stranger for connections and all that.
Yeah.
Right, I have 2 minutes. Can we finish it in 2 minutes?
Yes, we can. I will move through this last one. But to Konstantino's point too, being able to leverage all those tools. So he mentioned AI can do a lot of these things, and he's absolutely right. But being able to leverage them and being the creative human behind it to know what it's being used for, and being able to create bigger and better things in that regard. But agree, AI is moving very quickly. We're in a race with it. It can do things much faster and much more efficiently than we can, but we want to maintain that soul, as Dr. Mizrahi mentioned, and then as Raphael touched on too, and keep that human piece in there. So we only have about 1 minute, so I'll move through these pretty quickly, but communication, as we know, is even more important as we move into the future. Foundational literacy skills, speaking and listening skills, being able to communicate effectively with the AI, but also healthy conflict resolution skills. So we're going to leave a lot of tasks to the tools, but we're left to deal with the humans, right? So we still have our teams of humans. And so being able to have those conflict resolution skills will become even more important. Collaboration and cooperation requires effective communication. And again, going back to the small talk piece, will we automatically have these skills like we have now? Because we're working with humans all the time. We may not automatically have these skills. And so it'll be something that we need to, within ourselves and with our younger people, that we're making sure that we're taking the time and that we have the frameworks to build these skills effectively, and that we don't lose them. And then lastly, we have curiosity. So always maintaining our curiosity, always wanting to learn more, wondering what more could be or how a problem could be better solved, asking the right questions. My opinion is that we always want to maintain that the future can always be better. And that's sort of that hope that drives my curiosity, and just the belief that the best is yet to come, and that we have a say in that, and we have some agency in that. And so the more we can learn, the better that we can present our beliefs and our ideas. And so we just want to keep that curiosity going strong. But I know we're right at 11 o'clock, so we were just going to have more of a conversation at the end, but we've had it along the way, so we don't need to do that. And thank you, Dr. Mizrahi, for having me, and thank you for the entire group. Thank you for being a very thank you for your participation, and I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for such an inspirational, ending. And I think it's a really great message to everyone, to the students, to the lifelong learners, everyone who joined us today. Thank you so much. And we are looking forward to connecting again. We have reminding my students, we have a very important session tomorrow with Professor Petricis about the presentation skills. And next week we're doing our student conference, so everyone will be invited. Expect some emails coming from me. Also, in 2 weeks, we have another session about AI ethics. So it's also something that we started discussing today. Really, really intriguing and interesting, complicated issue. So lots of questions, lots of interesting ideas. So see you soon in the next sessions, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. And
thank you all. And I put in the chat, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Would love to hear from you all. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
Bye.
please connect to Ashlee, connect to all of us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.